Today is April the 1st, April Fool's Day, and we have had a letter from the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills. Jo Swinson has written it. This is in response to the letter and the evidence we submitted to Downing Street. It's quite clear from this letter that not a jot of that evidence has been read at all, because if it had been read, there's no way they could write letters like this. Firstly, the letter is completely and utterly insulting and offensive. To tell whistleblowers who've been on the receiving end of PIDA, who have ongoing harm caused to them and have no justice whatsoever, to tell them, we have a law called PIDA that protects whistleblowers, give me strength. You know, if you were working in a high street store, Miss Swinson, and you didn't do your job, you'd be out on your ear. Well, you know, you should do your job and you should have read this evidence. I thought Robert Francis was bad enough with ignoring evidence and pretend it doesn't exist because it's inconvenient and it contradicts what we're doing here. But you have absolutely just totally not read this evidence at all. Because, you know, you should be ashamed of yourself. You haven't done your job and you should be ashamed of yourself. I don't care what government or what party does something about this, but as long as somebody does it. Vulnerable people are dying. The next mid-staffs is already happening. You know, do you want to find blood on your hands when the next disaster hits? Do you want to know about Rotherham and Haringey and all of the abuse that's now coming out, and all of the whistleblowers that were there, that spoke out and were totally failed by PIDA? How dare you tell me that PIDA is a law that protects whistleblowers? You say criminal offences, breaches of legal obligation, miscarriages of justice, environmental dangers, as well as criminal offences are all dealt with under this Act. And then you go on to say because it's a civil matter. Well, actually, none of these things are civil matters. They're the responsibility of the government to prosecute these crimes and to make the whistleblower a protected witness. Not somebody that's out on their ear but no job and no hope and no access to legal aid or to even access the law. And the few that do access the law have all of the evidence completely covered up. How dare you tell us that we have a law called PIDA that protects whistleblowers, and then go on to give me a link to how to read the policies and procedures and how they work and how they create an open and transparent environment. Are you seriously a minister? Because, to be honest, I think you should go and get your IQ tested, if not your eyesight. Yes, I am frustrated because at the end of the day, that evidence has been gathered and it is a scandal what is happening to people. Going back even to the Bupa 7, we were the first case. We had written evidence to prove that the inquiry report that upheld all our allegations was suppressed by the tribunal because they assured Bupa that it would never be made public. Is that what you call justice? Well, it's not what we call justice. Then, you know, we wrote at the time and we highlighted all of this, and you said it wasn't an employment tribunal's job to judge the disclosures. But they did judge the disclosures. In fact, they contradicted the regulators' conclusions. And this is not the first time this has happened. This is what you get when you have a law called PIDA that it was never meant to be used in a courtroom. I don't even... Oh, the government doesn't wish to criminalise employers who, you know, cause harm to genuine whistleblowers. And yet, the issues are criminal offences and breaches of legal obligations and cover-ups and environmental damage. And those things are down to the whistleblower to take up and take forward if they, you know, if they report these things and nothing happens. How many times does this have to be shown to be the case? Oxford child abuse was reported by a whistleblower. That whistleblower hasn't got a job. Rotherham, Rochdale, those whistleblowers haven't got a job. You know, it's not It's common sense, but maybe it's something more. Maybe it's something common decency. Maybe there are people that are in Whitehall that can't seem to put two and two together. Well, let me tell you this. We are going to keep fighting. We are going to line Whitehall with Edna's picture. We're going to remind you that it's people like Edna that pay the price. Edna was worth fighting for, and she is a victim of silence, and because we were ignored, people like Edna die. They suffer and they die. The public will support this because this is the only way to stop abuse. And if you had an ounce of decency, you would have at least read what we sent to you. And if Downing Street had an ounce of decency, they wouldn't have sent it to you in the first place, because you've had the evidence once already. And I wrote to your department in June 2014. I've not had a reply yet. And then Downing Street sent that to you again. You didn't read it the first time. It seems to me that when there are whistleblower inquiries, they only want to read evidence that supports having policies and procedures. It seems to be there are people selling policies and procedures that have a vested interest in promoting that as a protection for whistleblowers. Believe me, policies and procedures are worth nothing. They are bits of paper in the office. And as I've said again and again, you could stuff them down your clothing and use them for body armour, and they might give you some protection when you're slapped with a chair. But other than that, they're worth nothing. And I would not like to be you, Miss Swinson, the next train crash where a whistleblower spoke out and was ignored. I would not like to be you, the next child abuse scandal that comes to light because a whistleblower was ignored. I would not like to be you when you jail the first person that didn't report child abuse because they were too frightened and had seen what happens to other people when they report things. I would not like to be in your position when that happens, and it won't be long. And then you will be the person that dare to tell whistleblowers that PEDA protects people. It's absolutely disgusting, and we're coming back to Downing Street, and we're coming back again and again and again and again until the truth and justice prevail, in spite of the incompetence and complete and utter stupidity of people that can't grasp that when you have a situation where whistleblowers are harmed, you have a situation where the public are at risk. They're at risk because nobody can speak out about issues. How many more people have to die? You know, how many more people have to die before you do the right thing by whistleblowers? People speak out and do the right thing every day, and they pay dearly for doing that. How dare you not do the right thing by them? And how dare you send me a letter telling me that we have a law called PEDA that protects people? Because it is worth nothing, and neither is your response. It's absolutely disgusting, and that's all I have to say.